Hello everyone. Today is February 14th, 2025, and we're going to go over a few things from Super Bowl 59 that I had mentioned in my pre-Super Bowl video. Things that have to do with America and citizenship, earthquakes. Of course, one of the main things I didn't mention in that video, but Philadelphia in the Bible, place of a great earthquake. And then the Star Wars theme showed up again. And that's my first slide here, right? Last year, Super Bowl 58, we had Taylor Swift flying from Japan in her Falcon private jet, and the stadium was nicknamed the Death Star, and we went through all that a couple times already. But this year, in a Super Bowl commercial with Harrison Ford, right? He's the pilot of the Millennium Falcon. Okay, and of course he has his dog with him here. Maybe a Chewbacca reference. Maybe it's his real dog. I don't know, but definitely not a coincidence that we have the pilot of the Millennium Falcon, and then last year we had the Falcon flying from Japan, and a lot of the themes from Star Wars are Japanese. So that was pretty neat to see that. And also, in case you didn't notice, it was a pretty patriotic Super Bowl, especially the halftime show. And one of the biggest features that I noticed during this Super Bowl halftime show that had to do with America, citizenship, and I talked about the Republic, right? We had the Republic symbolism, right, from Star Wars. We had 2 Japanese airline incidents, 40 days before 58 and 4 days before 59, with this their symbols very similar to the Galactic Republic, Old Republic symbol in Star Wars. So that all kind of played out again. But the most notable thing that I noticed that has to do with what we were talking about, or what I was talking about, is Kendrick Lamar was on stage with what is a very iconic automobile, the Grand National. Okay? And this is super important to America, because when America was founded, there was no such thing as a U.S. citizenship. And in today's, I guess you could say, codifications, the original citizenship status is called a national, and that's someone who owes allegiance to a state, right? Because when you, in the original republic, you were a Floridian or you were a Tennessean, right? There was no, you were a citizen of the state, right? That was your, you had, that's all there was. There was no United States citizen until 1868. So you had this allegiance to a state as opposed to a country. So that's why they put the Grand National at the Super Bowl, right? It's the original, what we know now as the original citizenship, quote unquote, of the Republic, the Grand National. Now this is confirmed, and I put this up on a community post, but if you go look at this song, came out in 2020, called Ooh La La by Run the Jewels. They also feature a Grand National, and what do they sing about in that song? They sing about the Republic. People, we the pirates, the pride of this great republic. No matter what you order, right? I highly suggest, I'll leave a link to that in the description. I highly suggest you watch this video. Another thing that they're doing in this video is they're throwing away all their money, right? Why are they throwing away all their money? They don't need money anymore. Yeah, I'll leave a link to this. Watch this. Listen to it carefully. It's a super symbolic music video, and also features the Grand National, right? A representation of the Republic. Okay, so that's why they have that in the Super Bowl, right? And the emblem of the Buick is based on the Scottish coat of arms, David Dunbar Buick, right? And that's really interesting because the surname is the family name, and that a lot of times is, found on on a coat of arms, right? And if we look at the record for Philadelphia, their all-time record is now 667, 665, right? So we're no longer on 666. So for the next 6.5 months or more, depending on what the Eagles do in 2025, and when the season starts in September, right? We're no longer Philadelphia, right? The founding city of the United States of America is no longer on the mark of the beast, right? The family name or the surname is added to the given name, and that's what creates a whole different animal, right? And by animal, I mean a U.S. citizen. It literally creates the U.S. citizenship the U.S. citizen is the birth registration name. That's the point. So as long as you keep using that name as it's found on your birth certificate, you'll be a U.S. citizen. And that's why the Grand National just takes a little bit more. You can't just declare that you're a national. There's a little more to it because of the construction of the Constitution, what type of document it is, right? And if we even look in the other U.S. codes here, a United States business means a United States citizen. That piece of paper that you got that says birth certificate or certificate of live birth isn't you, the man or woman. It's a business. It's a business for you to run. And since you don't know any better, the powers that be run you like a business because you haven't corrected it yet. Okay? And we're going to get into that and show you how to correct it, show you the nuts and bolts of the citizenship, the United States citizen. But a United States business is a United States citizen. You do not want to be a business for someone else. You're not a business. You're a man or a woman, and that's the whole catch here. And one of the things I was looking up, since there was a Japanese theme, I looked up childbirth in Japan. And one of the things they do is they save a piece of the umbilical cord, and I think they celebrate every birthday with the umbilical cord, right? They get it out and they keep it in a box. It's kind of weird or whatever, but it's interesting too that the umbilical cord, of course, kind of looks like a snake, and we're in the snake year. Okay? All has to do with birthright, birth registration, certificate of live birth. What do those mean? Right? Even the word you has been hijacked by the federal government to basically trick you. Yeah, the word you means someone who owes a debt to the United States, and we'll go through that later when I'm going to scan all my information and kind of go through it page by page, and you can see from the beginning what these things mean. Okay, so here's Kendrick Lamar on stage, and he had this A on his chest, big emblem, right? The letter A, and it looks an awful lot like, right, the Gadsden flag, the serpent on the Gadsden flag, the coiled serpent, right? He was standing on the Grand National, right? This is one of the symbols of the revolution, the symbols of the beginning of the Republic. And the Constitution was heavily based on the Magna Carta. And one of the symbols of the Magna Carta is the Phrygian cap. We went through that with the Olympics, right? Find it here. right? One of the symbols, the mascots of the 2024 Olympics were the Feargies, the Liberty Cap. Right? And that has to do with psychedelics. If you read a little bit into the Feargian cap or Liberty Cap, it has to do with, it's connected to doing mushrooms and stimulating the pineal gland, right? So if we take a look at the Constitution, which was based on the Magna Carta, right? The Liberty Cap, which has to do with, liberty, psychedelics, the pineal gland. One of the symbols you could say of the Republic, of course, or the Constitution could be the coiled snake, right? Don't tread on me. And it has the snake, the coiled snake. There's also another, I guess, esoteric or energy-based consciousness, stimulating your kundalini power, right? And kundalini is a divine feminine energy that lies dormant at the base of the spine. Okay? And remember, we had this big commercial too, right? The women's football, right? The women were taking on the men, right? Right? The divine feminine energy. Yeah, this whole Super Bowl was super patriotic, and patriotism is, for one way or another, and freedom is based on these esoteric principles of stimulating the pineal gland, right? Either directly through psychedelics or even through, activating your kundalini. Probably one of the most misunderstood electromagnetic principles that that man has the capability of activating, right? So there you go. Super Bowl, Star Wars, the Grand National, all about the Republic, right? All the symbolism. The Feargian cap. We had the 2024 Olympics with the Feargies. We the people. The coiled serpents. We're in the snake year, right? The childbirth in Japan, where they keep part of the umbilical cord, right? It's all connected here, and I'm going to put it together. Start putting it together for, all this symbolism is cool and stuff, but right, we need to start looking at the application, right, and how it really can affect our lives, because right now the United States of America is not free, right? We're still we're slaves. We don't know we're slaves. We think we're free, but we're not. But and even in the Super Bowl commercial, I'll leave a link to this too. I mean, listen to what he says. This is a very good commercial. He's describing freedom and this whole Super Bowl was about the United States of America coming back, right? Of course, we have Donald Trump doing all these things, but he's only going to get you halfway there. The other half is going to be you, when you figure out who you are, you the man or woman, right? As opposed to you, the debtor to the United States, right? Like I said, that's a loaded word, and we'll go through that later, but you have to decide who you are and then go from there, right? You have the freedom to choose. So, all right, everybody. We'll cover this more in depth, and thanks for watching.